Hello, sailors. Welcome to the American Sailor Podcast, the official podcast of U.S. Sailing. I'm John Pearce, joined here in Bristol, Rhode Island by Lexi Pline.
Hello.
And in Annapolis, Maryland by Whitney Kent.
Hey, everybody.
So we're here for episode number 1 of the American Sailor Podcast. Today's feature is going to be an interview with new U.S. Sailing CEO Charlie Enright, conducted by our SVP of Development, Blaine Pedlow. I think many of the people listening probably already know Charlie and Blaine, but you can look forward to a good conversation with those guys about Charlie's new tenure here as U.S. Sailing CEO. But first, Lexi, Whitney, and I are going to discuss a few current events in the news. A little bit about the American Sailor Podcast. If you missed the teaser episode, we're kind of throwback here to the American Sailor magazine of old from the 80s and 90s. Some news from U.S. Sailing, but also news from around the sailing world. You can see how kind of awesome and retro the American Sailor magazine was. So what's old is new again, and we're going to discuss some news. So Lexi, first on our list, you were at College Nationals for close to 2 weeks down in Maryland. How was that event?
Yeah, I was serving as the media person and photographer for College Nationals. I really like this new format where they've split team race and fleet race up. For myself personally, having to do the old format, that was like 12 plus days of sailing straight. I can't imagine what it was like to compete in all 3 of those back-to-back, but even as someone covering it, it was a lot. So this year it was split into team race was in April and fleet race was in May. Fleet race was also split up with a weekend in between, which is new. Enjoyed that as well. And this was all at St. Mary's. So weather was super challenging for both events. I think we always joke with Danielle Richards, who's the ICSA secretary, that if you want to know what a venue's wind is like, normally don't host nationals. If you want to figure out how it is, not ever host nationals. So it was pretty challenging. A lot of really light days, which is kind of unusual for that time of year down there. So I understand. Open almost didn't happen because there was no wind. We didn't have any racing on the first day of finals and only got 5 races in each division in the during the second day. So I'll start with women's. Stanford, obviously dominant in the women's field. They won nationals now for the 3rd time in a row.
Wow.
They're almost the most dominant women's team in history. Princeton in the 70s had a 4-peat, so if they go again next year and win it, they'll be tied with Princeton for like the most successful women's team ever.
Shouts Princeton. Respect.
Yeah. Tulane got 2nd. I think this is their best finish since their 2nd in 2021. I think the adage who always says that the second place team is the most unhappy, that did not. It's complete opposite here. I've never seen a team be more happy to get 2nd place. Loved seeing that energy for them. Loved seeing Tulane on the podium. It was awesome. It was a super windy, light day 1 for the finals. Sunny and beautiful weather on the second day. That was probably the best day of sailing we saw over both days at nationals. So Harvard got 3rd. It was the best program finish for the women's team since 2019, since before COVID. So they were also very happy about that. Love seeing. The women's podium is so fun because everyone's just really happy to be there, and the energy is pretty electric. So that was great.
It bombs.
Yeah. Stanford also won Open for the 2nd time in the last 4 years. They won in 2023 when it was at Kings Point, New York. They won both Low Point A and B division, and they won the whole event by 16 points. It was light, and their speed just blew everyone out of the water. I remember I was on like our photo boat watching racing on the 2nd day of finals, and like Vanessa could start in last and be in 1st by the end of
Just
one of those
fast.
races. Yes, like, wow. And you're looking at the like boat handling, whatever, and I didn't see anything like super standout other than just like speed and being in the right place at the right time. Like incredible work every single time. I'm looking up her or Tom Sitzman, I believe is his name, is their A division. They could start in the middle of the pack, be 1st by the end of the race. So hats off to them. They killed that. Navy got 2nd, was their best finish since winning the 2021 Nationals, which was sort of a limited nationals. A lot of the New England teams, I don't know if there were any New England teams there.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Because of COVID restrictions and everything. So happy to see them pull out this finish. That's really great. We were also marking, they had some pretty incredible boat handling. Like I was watching the Navy sailors, and their boat handling is so powerful that I think the Stanford team is smaller, not saying that being smaller is what's going to make you win a championship, but when it's that light, them being smaller helps with speed. The Navy guys were a lot bigger, but their boat handling is just so powerful. They're like ripping tacks and jibes in a way that I have not seen before. Like, so the pictures I have are like that, like foot up in the air, head like below the foot. I'm like,
the pictures are great. And
thank
the memes.
you. Yes, we make memes. Some like them, some don't. I try.
You're seeing hearing the voice behind the memes now, people. So think about that.
That's kind of scary. It's not just me. We have a group chat that we put together, so don't come for me. There were only 5 races on the final day of Open, super light. Harvard was one of the favorites. I think they won their respective semifinal going into this. I kind of thought they would be top 3. I thought maybe they had a chance to win too, although Stanford's been super dominant. They just didn't put the pieces together. I'm not exactly sure what was happening. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. And having just 5 races under the pressure of having won your semifinal, no racing on the first day, and then having to go out there with all this expectations, probably.
One-day regatta. That's pretty unusual, pretty high pressure.
Yeah. And it's not just one-day regatta where, like, we didn't start racing until later in the day, to the point where people were like, is this going to happen? Like, what happens if there is no sailing? Which the answer is there just isn't a national championship. It starts over and you try again next year.
Can't have that. That's crazy.
No, we don't like that.
No. And I guess I also want to point out for women's, that Catherine Shanahan, PRO, was able to pull out, I want to say, it was either 12 or 13 races on the final day. They were sailing from like 9:30 in the morning to, we started a race at 4:58 to get the last set to count. So she like put in as many races as she could in that beautiful day of racing. So hats off to Catherine. So
if you know, you know.
Yeah, giving her flowers.
You're in them.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the George Washington University team at Nationals, who really excelled despite being a club team without a full-time coach or anything like that. They got 8th place in the Open Nationals.
And they got their women's team got second in B Division. She was like this close to winning B Division. And as a club team, that I was rooting for her. So I was kind of hoping we'd have a club team on the top.
Teams,
yeah,
right?
I went to Boston University. We were a club team the whole time, and we were nationally competitive. But I think as the divide between club teams and the more like professionalized teams has gotten bigger, it gets harder to do that. So I love to see club teams succeeding.
Yeah, go Wisco.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Whitney, you gotta chime in here.
Big club team proponent here, so that's awesome. Good for them.
Don't sleep on the club teams. Right on. Well, shout outs to everybody at the ICSA for a great season, a great year, and to all the recently named All-Americans and College Sailors of the Year and all that good stuff. Well done. Next up on our list for news topics is the SailGP New York that just wrapped up. I've got a take here. I got 2 takes actually.
Go for it.
And then we can maybe go around the horn. It was an interesting event. There was not great wind on the first day. Not a lot of the racing was like a little slow and wobbly, I would say. And then the second day they couldn't get the helicopters up, so the footage was not from the aerial perspective.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, it was from like lower perspectives, which was, if you're used to watching sailboat racing, it looked okay. But I think if you have only seen sailboat racing from that aerial drone perspective, it was super kind of hard to tell what was going on. But my takes here are just for the SailGP US team. Number one, I think all the armchair quarterbacks out there who are, flooding the social media with their comments about how the team isn't doing as well as they should. I'm pretty sure the team knows that. So I think at this point we can all safely like get in their corner, and they're the underdogs now, right? I love an underdog. The rest of this season, right? It's like all uphill from here. So I just want to, give those guys a little pump up, right? But also in the comments on some of these, there are some people like knocking just American sailing in general, like basically like Americans can't sail. And I want to point out that there is some young talent coming up. You might have to skip a generation or two and get down into the kids who are in their teens and 20s. But people like Tommy Sitzman, who just won college nationals, but it's also a great WASP sailor. Mm-hmm. People like JP Latanzi from Hawaii, who's like a top dog wingfoil racer and a very good sailor as well. Makani Andrews, also from Hawaii, who's one of the best IQ foil youth athletes in the world. Got a bronze medal last year at the Youth Worlds and is going for the gold this year. Those guys have some serious chops. And so like if Buckley and co from the SailGP US team are looking for some fresh talent to bring up the ranks, it's definitely there. It's just a matter of recruiting and identifying and bringing them in. So.
And on that note, I mean, the Callahan brothers, of course, Justin got Quantum, or no, that's the women's one. Justin got the Sailor of the Year.
Right.
And I think he was being recruited by the U.S. team. I think they were talking. But he also, Snipe Junior World Champion,
right.
Sails other things outside of college, that kind of stuff. There's tons of those people.
Bring in the fresh
up
talent.
and coming, yeah.
Absolutely. Mentor them. Give them some resources. And it's great how the SailGP commercial platform is growing. They've got all these celebrity owners, Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh yeah, that was a new one this year.
Yeah.
Got some NBA champions with the
Our
Milwaukee
team's
Bucks.
co-owned by Issa Rae and a couple other actors who were in a group. Yeah.
So that's great for the culture of the sport and people to, gain viewership and everything. So just a few more puzzle pieces to put together. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on the SailGP this weekend?
I'm impressed how many people went to watch. I think that's super cool, right? Not a ton of opportunities for people around the world to sit in a grandstand and watch sailing. I watched it when it was in Chicago a couple years ago. We got to get our kids on the water. Boats are doing flybys, and regardless of who you're cheering for, it's incredible to watch and incredible to be that close to. So I think it's amazing that more than 10,000 people were there in person. I think it can only be good for the sport. So.
Yeah, they filled up the grandstand. They sold out tickets, and that was a 10,000 plus stand. And I did see the pictures. I mean, people came out on the rainy day. They were out they're making it an event, kind of like F1. I don't know. I can't imagine sitting and watching cars go around a racetrack, but the experience around F1 is what makes everyone want to go. And I think this has that same
100%
appeal to it.
100%. Any other SailGP takes?
Speaking of celebrities and the feel, we have to talk about DJ Khaled. I was convinced that his initial announcement was AI because he had the shirt, but he wasn't wearing the shirt. And anyone I know was like, this is AI. There's no way that they've got DJ Khaled here talking about this. But lo and behold, he does actually show up to the New York event. They put him on a boat. He looked like he was having the time of his life. So I'm pro whatever he's up to in this space. Bring him in. Bring him to our championships. Bring him everywhere.
I mean, I think the thing I learned is that I did not know that DJ Khaled is a Grammy award-winning artist. So check it off the list.
He's a good. Did his music win or did his producing win?
I didn't look that deeply into it, but I was.
I don't remember. He's a great producer though, outside of some of the bangers that he's also dropping. I just happy to see him there in person. That it was in fact not AI. I was wrong.
Moving on.
DJ Khaled sailing people.
Yeah.
Send your AI takes to American Sailor at ussailing.org. So Whitney, our next topic on the list here is the women's. Oh, you got more takes?
I had other notes. Yeah.
Back up.
I want to shout out Martine Grael and the Brazilian team for their first race win. Awesome. Love seeing women behind the helm succeeding. And it's only a matter of time. I mean, she's got 2 gold medals. She's probably one of the most accomplished people.
They got fourth?
They got fourth overall, yeah.
That's awesome.
Race win, put them up in the standings. But yeah, she's probably one of the most accomplished sailors helming one of those boats out there if we're talking, medals, wins, credentials and stuff. So we love to see that. And I think they're only up from here, obviously. Spain repeated their success from San Francisco, won the event. They're just so incredibly dominant in every aspect of sailing right now, or at least the ones that I'm paying attention to, that this isn't incredibly surprising. I mean, they have their recently minted 49er gold medalists on board doing the work. Those guys win everything. So don't quote me on that, but they win a lot of stuff.
Nice. All right. So Whitney, next up on our list here is the women's match racing news. There's been several women's match races going on, a lot of action. Get us up to speed.
Yeah. All right, the women's World Match Race Tour is underway. The first event was the Casa Vela Cup at St. Francis, which Pauline Courtois and her team Match in Pink won against Nicole Bria, American, in the finals. And then more recently, we had the Santa Maria Cup here in Annapolis, which was a long event. They sailed a ton of races. I was able to stop by the venue a couple times, and everybody was clocking in bedtimes of 8:30 p.m. So they were working hard. Friday morning. I was down there doing some warm-up yoga with everybody, and hanging out with a pretty awesome showing of people. We had Liz Bayless in town. James Pleasance, who runs the World Match Race Tour, was there. And then, of course, a huge roster of awesome umpires. But we were excited because USA Team BAM won the Santa Maria Cup, which is awesome, skippered by Allie Bleeker, who bested Nicole in the final. So Nicole's been on fire. You heard her name twice already. And kind of a cool little women's sailing note, Allie sailed with Nicole at the Congressional Cup recently out in California. So great match racing happening across the country and right here in Annapolis. So excited to hear that.
That is awesome. Looks like a lot of fun as well. The vibes are high on the social media for those events. And yeah, Team BAM definitely brings a lot of energy, I would say.
We love to see an all-American final. The women's match racing scene in the U.S. is just like, psh. I participate sometimes with Janelle Zarkowski, and the group of women who are doing it are awesome and just super uplifting. Everyone wants to help each other, and obviously it's working. We're only making each other better, so love to see it.
Get out there and match race, people.
Mm-hmm. Good.
All right, our last news topic here is getting off the race course and just onto the water. I think probably most people are aware currently that the Coast Guard is looking to potentially change policy around the number of buoys that are in the water. And if you talk to sailors and boaters about buoys, you definitely get their attention because buoys are kind of a big deal. So, Lexi, I think you've got a little information about what's going on.
Yes. So the Coast Guard is looking to remove a number of physical aids to navigation. So that's buoys, day marks, and lights in District 1. So that's Maine to New York. They're citing the global navigation systems, electronic navigation charts, and electronic charting systems, which are widely used. They're saying you don't need physical markers. You've got the digital stuff handled. This is a proposal they've put out, so there is still time for people to write in and see what's going on. Give your opinion. So we'll leave in the show notes. There's an email you can respond to. They're public. It's public comments at uscg.mil, but we'll put that somewhere else. And they want you to write in, say your type of boat and your opinions on this. I know the community, most people have said bad idea. I'm pro visual markers. I think having things that you're seeing in your face are good.
I don't have an electronic chart.
No, I don't know how to read one of those. I know that red, right, returning, I need those things there. It's like they teach you in boating school. So,
and there's a letter from Charlie in the weekly lift, Charlie Enright, to the Coast Guard on this topic. So if you want to see the details, check out the U.S. Sailing weekly lift email newsletter. But yeah, it's a big deal.
It is. And we've put this out to our community in the past. We've been asking people to write in and give their opinions. So hopefully people have gone and taken the liberty of doing that and letting the Coast Guard know what they want from their Coast Guard. So
love that.
Yep. And they are actively soliciting feedback. So let's make sure we get it to them.
All right. That's our last news piece. Before we get to Charlie and Blaine, we're just going to do a couple shout outs around the horn. So, Whitney, do you have any additional shout outs you want to give?
Oh, yeah, sure. So we had the Annapolis to Newport race just wrapped up. I stopped down there at the start. Not a lot of wind. Took them a day to get out of the bay. But Arc Santry and Oak Cliff JV66 Temptation won the race. Just took everybody anywhere from 2.5 to 5.5 days. So they hit all kinds of weather. But a lot of good pictures of dolphins coming out of that race and fog.
And then I want to note congratulations to Augie Diaz and Madeline Baldridge, who won the Snipe Nationals in Atlanta, Georgia this past week. We've got the TP52 Super Series. American Magic Quantum Racing won the Galicia Super Series Royal Cup with Harry Melgis driving. Love to see that.
Race Worlds are out New York Yacht Club at the end of May. So congratulations to Corinthian Yacht Club of Massachusetts. So a USA team winning that event in some pretty spicy Newport conditions.
Point Loma High School won the high school championships, both fleet race and team race. So congratulations to them.
Nice job.
And then upcoming, there is one more Sailing World Helly Hansen Regatta Series event. Next one's in Marblehead. And the Lightning World Championship is coming up June 18th in Greece. There are a handful of American teams and some past world champions competing. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Right on. Yeah. And I want to give a shout out, bringing it back to our sort of inspiration here with the American Sailor magazine. I want to give a shout out to the one-piece foul weather gear suit. You can see here these nice numbers that were being worn back in 1989 at the International Women's Keelboat Championship. And we also have this nice centerfold spread here with multiple designs from May 1990 American Sailor. You don't see the one-piece foul weather gear suit. You see the one-piece dry suit still, but not the regular foul weather gear piece. And it's got a certain vibe to it.
It does have a vibe. The vibe I was always told, the reason that we no longer have them is because they were not safe. I was told as a kid if you wear one, it would fill up with water and you would drown. But
oh gosh,
I think they were just afraid of the fashion. They were afraid of looking.
I mean, you see it on the ski slope. It's still out there.
It is still out
That's
there. I would
true.
wear one of those skiing right now, unironically.
Maybe we should see if anybody's got any hanging in their closets. We could wear them on camera at one of these weeks.
Send your vintage one-piece suit photos to American Sailor at ussailing.org, and we will feature them next time around.
If you got some really good ones, you can drop them off in the office, and I'll just wear them around. It'll be great. Fashion show.
So with that, we're going to move on to the main event. Charlie Enright, U.S. Sailing's new CEO, interviewed by Blaine Pedlow. Take it away.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of American Sailor. I'm here with our new CEO, Charlie Enright. Awesome to be here. I'm Blaine Pedlow. I'm SVP of Development with U.S. Sailing. I've been with the organization for just about 2 years. Charlie, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, first 6 weeks. How has it been?
It's been a lot. It's been rewarding. You know, I'm having fun with it. Learning a lot. Happy to be here. It's cool to see how much good work goes on in this building here in Bristol, Rhode Island, and just the breadth of what it is we do here at U.S. Sailing. It's been great to observe.
This is a pretty big career pivot for you from pro sailor, round the world racer to here in the office. What brought you here?
Yeah, I mean, I've been sailing around the world, I mean, for the better part of the last decade, almost 2 decades now. And, you know, I'd kind of summited my own personal Everest and, you know, achieved what I was looking to achieve for, you know, 3 laps of the planet now in an ocean race victory. And was looking for a new challenge, you know, a little bit of a change of pace. I mean, in some ways, what I've been doing for the last 10 years is pretty selfish in nature. I've been kind of on my own quest and, you know, had the opportunity, I should say, to take a role where I can give back to the sport that's given me so much in a town that I've grown up in, you know, my entire life. And sometimes the right opportunity comes around at the right time. And I've been having fun with it.
You grew up here in Bristol?
Lived in Bristol, Rhode Island for the first 36 years of my life, and then made a little change just a couple miles down the road. Living in Barrington now, which has worked out pretty well for me and my family. But yeah, 16-minute commute to the office, which ain't bad.
You grew up sailing just right here on the bay.
Grew up sailing in Bristol Harbor, still one of my favorite places to go sailing. You know, you get a incredible southwesterly sea breeze in the summer. Not as much as you used to get, but you know, it's an awesome place. It's where I learned to sail. You know, my grandfather was a boat builder. You know, at Bristol Marine, place that I grew up, super familiar with. You know, just across the harbor, we have, you know, the Herreshoff Museum, which was previously the Herreshoff Manufacturing Company, where they produced many an America's Cup Defender. It's steeped in tradition, something that I kind of probably took for granted when I was just learning to sail as a 5-year-old. But, you know, now that I look back on it, I mean, how lucky was I?
What, as you've like come into U.S. Sailing, you're here for the first month. Like, what's something that surprised you about being on site here for the first time?
Probably how much we do, honestly, and how many different aspects of the sport we touch and that we're really integral to. You know, there's a lot of work that gets done, you know, in departments that I wasn't totally familiar with. You know, I'm an end user of the offshore office and safety at sea and, you know, grew up doing the youth ladder events. But, I mean, there's so much in terms of, like, education and training and race admin and, you know, one design, para, I mean, you name it. I mean, there's so many things that I didn't know were actually happening behind these doors, and it's been amazing to see.
the team here. That was my same approach in coming in here. It was like, oh, I'm aware of like U.S. sailing through the offshore office, the ladder events, like the pieces that you sort of know, racing rules of sailing, whatever. And of course, a fan of the Olympic program. But you get here in the office, and over the last 2 years, it's been like there are an incredible number of people that are working, pulling in the same direction, supporting the sport. It's pretty impressive. And I thought of myself as a quite well-rounded sailor before being here. And you're like, there are people that have incredible depth of knowledge around all sorts of things that I had no awareness of, that it's pretty cool to be around. I've enjoyed being here. I want to dig in a little bit into your sailing.
Sure.
You grew up here, Bristol Harbor.
Yep.
Tell me about your youth sailing and what you were involved in.
I just grew up sailing at the Bristol Yacht Club. I started sailing at Cape Cod Mercuries. I think my parents lied, honestly, to say that I was a certain age so that I could get into the program because it was easier than getting a babysitter. And started sailing kind of in groups in Cape Cod Mercuries, and then got into sailing on my own in Opties, and very quickly started competing, and eventually up to like the Optimus national team with some international regattas and what have you. And then sailing for me was like interscholastic. I sailed in high school, I sailed in college, and then after that I started working in North Sails, just down the road here in Portsmouth, and worked there for 17 years before coming here to U.S. Sailing. My relationship with North Sails kind of waxed and waned a bit over that time, depending upon what else I had going on, but it was always there, and a relationship that I really valued and that I took a lot away from and learned a ton with them.
When did you get the itch to, I'd say race offshore, but to race around the world? When did that first come to you?
I hadn't done a lot of offshore sailing prior to the Morning Light Project, which I was, very lucky to have participated in. For those that don't know, it was a Disney produced documentary about a group of young people sailing a TP52 from Los Angeles to Hawaii, and I applied for that project, was fortunate enough to make the team, and then what that meant was a group of 15 of us moved to Hawaii and started training on a TP52 just off of Diamond Head and kind of in and around the Hawaiian Islands. And I got exposed to a group of coaches, in the form of Mike Sanderson and Stan Honey, and Stan's ironically a board member of U.S. Sailing now, who had just come off the back of a ABN AMRO Volvo Ocean Race win. Right. And that is what really kind of opened my eyes to what was possible, this world of professional sailing, but then also, an event that is really the pinnacle of crewed offshore existence. And, after that, Mark Towell, who I met through the Morning Light Project, and that was our dream. That was our aspiration. And as crazy as it is to sail around the world, there's plenty of people that want to do it, and there aren't a lot of seats. Yeah. So we ended up kind of charting our own path and creating our own team, and really the rest is history.
Yeah, I think as both as a fan of offshore sailing and a participant, but more than anything as an American, I think it was really cool to watch Americans begin to break in more fully into that race, and that's something that you and Mark definitely led that charge. I think collectively we were proud to see that happen. I would ask, as far as U.S. Sailing and your experience in managing, setting up, and then leading a Volvo or Ocean Race team, what are some of the parallels that exist in managing this team versus that? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that with big campaigns like that, and particularly in the offshore world, there's no real script for how to achieve it. Particularly in our last go round, we competed against a lot of French folk in the Imoca 60, and over there the offshore path is very clear. Yeah. But what Mark and I did was very entrepreneurial in nature, and we kind of did it the American way. And by the end we had a very complex boat to build. We had a team of 35 people to manage. Not only were we sailors on the boat, but we were managers of the campaign, owners of the institutions. And so there was a lot of, executive function, I think, that came along with that. So when you look at what's happening here at U.S. Sailing, it's, we're sailing, it's about the same number of people. The budgets are not too dissimilar. And, in everything I've ever done, it's always been about surrounding yourself with good people, setting a realistic goal, and delivering on it. And I think, no matter what you're doing, those are the keys. And, we have the opportunity to do that here. And, thus far, it seems to be translating. But we've only been, or I've only been at it, the better part of 5 weeks now. But, that looks good.
Yeah. What are some of the areas you're excited to dig into in here, and maybe that your eyes have been open to over the last 5 weeks?
Yeah, I think, again, there's a lot of good work that's happening in the building. I think that, never ever can any organization be everything to everyone. So I think kind of trying to figure out where we best add value, I think, to the membership, and trying to kind of hone in and focus on that is important. I think there are some tangible outputs that we produce, whether it be a rating certificate or a safety at sea certificate or a level 1 certificate, that are you can see them, you can feel them, you can touch them. There are other things that we do in terms of support and facilitation that are a little softer. And I think we need to kind of look at that and see if it's the best thing that we could be doing. What is the effect that it has on the sailing community? Is it something that's financially viable for the organization? There's a lot. There's a lot.
Are you going to, this is a big shift for you personally and professionally, are you going to keep sailing?
Yeah, of course. This year for sure, because, it's worth noting that I'm going to continue to honor all my pre-existing commitments. Right. One, because I don't want to leave people high and dry. Two, I certainly don't want them to think about U.S. Sailing as the reason that I've left them high and dry.
Appreciate it.
And then lastly, I think it's important to continue sailing. It's a sailing organization, and to be out amongst the membership and, with the constituents and the partners and the donor base. And I think that people need to be heard. I think I need to know what's going on. And, it's no secret. The organization's been through some tough times over the past few years. And, I don't think we're going to restore the reputation of the organization if we all stay in this building. Yeah. So I think it's important that we're out there and we're hearing what's going on, because only then can we understand and can we help address some of the issues that exist.
What's on the calendar?
Let's see. Calendar's busy. Yeah. This year I am doing the Great Lakes 52 series, program called Wizard that I've sailed with for a long time now. The Askew brothers, Peter specifically with this boat. Great guy. And then I'm also doing the Transpac race on a Gunboat 68 with Don Wilson. And, I'm trying to wear two hats, certainly, as I do that now. For instance, prior to the Transpac start, I'm going to do a donor dinner in Long Beach on July 1st. And prior to the Mackinac race start, going to do the New York Yacht Club Rendezvous in Chicago. So I think that's all part of it. And you can only kind of do those things if you're out at these events and amongst the membership and, the people whose job it is for us to serve.
Yeah. We'll need to put a friendly wager on the Transpac. Maybe we get somebody in the office to set up some sort of betting table or something like that. Maybe I'll be there as well.
Talk to the folks at SailGP. They're on DraftKings now.
Oh,
we can figure out some sort of way to do that.
That sounds good. How about with your family, personal sailing, anything else?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, until I really took this on, I didn't realize how many aspects of the sport I actually touch, I sail offshore, I sail inshore, I sailed in college, I've done match racing, team racing, and now I do a lot of family cruising. My kids are just getting into junior sailing. So, I feel like I'm well positioned, to lead an organization that does, as much as we do in the sport.
Cool. What's something that we should, I guess, an experience that we should know about that's quite funny that's happened to you in one of the in offshore racing? I know there are plenty of comedic situations. One that's, I don't know, what is the rating of our podcast? We should keep it. We'll keep this PG, of course.
Let's see. I don't know why it came to mind.
Put you on the spot.
I don't know why it came to mind, but we were sailing from Brazil to Newport, and this is in 2014-15 with Team Alphametica, and we were a younger team, but we had a older, wiser, more experienced navigator in the form of Will Oxley, who was celebrating his 50th birthday on board the boat. And mischievous Nick Dana grabbed a handheld VHF radio, and from on deck called our boat to a sleeping Will Oxley in the nav station, professing to be a senior citizen cruise ship. And he woke up from his slumber and fielded the radio call, and given that he was groggy and whatnot, probably took him about 5 minutes to figure out what was going on, and then very shortly came on deck and gave Nick a good beat down as only Will could do. But I don't know why that sprung to mind, but there you go.
That's awesome. That's funny. I've had some miles with Nick as well. A trickster for sure.
Yes, you could say.
Well, Charlie, thanks you for joining us. This is awesome. This podcast will be some fun activity. I'm sure we'll have you on here plenty more. Great to have you, and excited to work together and to see your leadership with the organization.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I think the podcast is a great idea. I think it's a way to kind of communicate to the members. I like that it's called American Sailor, which is the title of the magazine that everyone used to get in the mailbox. And this day and age, the podcast is the new member magazine. So I think it's cool.
Right on. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Blaine.